go.
Yeah.
Welcome to You're On in 5, The Art of Understudying.
The only podcast to celebrate the work of actors in understudy roles.
Understudying demands tons of preparation with minimal rehearsal.
Or sometimes none at all.
But it can end in triumphant glory.
In these conversations, we will amplify the diverse voices of actors who have understudied. We want to hear about the actor's technique, experience, and journey.
As well as whatever's on our mind that day. Hey, it's your host, Elana Elise. And I'm not doing a You Might Know Me From.
And I'm your co-host, Scott Sava. You might know me from, let's go deep. Production of All My Sons at Illinois State University in 2005. I played Dr. Jim Bayless.
Wow.
Next door neighbor with that nice little milk monologue at the end. And our guest today is Larry Trice. You might know them from the staged reading of Hunties at Piccolo Theater back 100 years ago when Piccolo Theater was a thing. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Welcome, Larry.
I am excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. If we're going to throw back to a show that we did, though, I am going to throw us back to, you might know me from Pirates of Penzance, which is the first show I ever did. Back in 2008.
Wow.
Yeah.
With who?
It was with the Gallery 37 After School Matters program with Chicago Opera Theater.
Wow.
So it was like an advanced apprenticeship, I think is what it was officially called, but it was all through Gallery 37. And like we had pros come in and like run the show and direct it and do all the things. And little high schoolers that I was a senior in high school, I think, at the time. First show I ever got paid for.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, that's amazing. And rolls us right into, what was your first understudy gig?
My first understudy gig was not an official understudy gig. I was in I had done Rocky Horror in community college, and then went to help one of my friends with another show. We were doing Urinetown, I think it was, and one of my other friends was in it, and he was McQueen, but was also in the Army Reserves. So he was going to be out for a show because the reserves were like, you're not doing this for your school, so we're not letting you out of duty, so find somebody else to do it. And he let me know like 2 days ahead of time, maybe like a week ahead of time. Very little time was given to me to learn McQueen in Urinetown. But I did, and went up, did that, and I never looked back at understudying. I was like, let's go understudying. That's freaking great. Come on.
And that's awesome. Well, tell us about the next time when it was you knew you got hired as an understudy.
The first time I got hired as an understudy with like proper notice was at Emerald City Theater. It was one of the Showtime at Shakespeare, I think it was called. A hip hop interpretation of one of a children's book of some, I don't remember what it was called. But it was cute and it was fun. But like I got hired at the like beginning of the process and worked through it with everyone and all that, which was fantastic and great. But before that, I had understudied 2 other times where I had gotten called in to learn like an entire role for a show I've never seen, The Monday of Tech.
Why?
Twice this happened?
Twice before this. Twice. And I was like, do y'all just not think about understudies? Because we are essential to making shows go. The week of Tech? What happened here? Yeah.
Well, and then what was that like? Like, honestly, in those processes?
I learned how to read a script and memorize really fast. And that's honestly the best thing that I've picked up from those early understudy gigs is if it's a straight play, I have a method of like, I just type out the entire show multiple times or write it out. If I only have a week of time, let's go. All my free time is spent learning this show backwards and forwards. So I'm typing it out, writing it out, and figuring out all of the intricacies as quickly as I can in this week of time that I have to learn an entire track. In addition to like all the other things, but I mostly understudy for musicals, which is great because like most of the understudy things I've done for musicals are shows that I know decently well already. So like I did Little Mermaid, and I'm a black tenor, so I understudied Sebastian, which is a role that I've known since college, because all of my teachers were like, you're gonna need to know this role, and I was like, great, cool, I will learn this role. So when I got called in for that one on 2 weeks ahead of opening, to learn that role, I was like, I know the songs, I know the script already. I just got to learn how the dances for this production. So what are the dances for this production? How do I move in this one? Great, let's go. So that's really cool.
So for those two, did you have to go in?
I did not have to go on for either of the other two that I had to like learn the tracks in a week. There's only one other show that I learned the track that fast and I went on for it, but that one, they had like there was an understudy performance set up. So like, yeah, I got brought in late in the process because of some shuffling in the cast. But we also had like proper understudy rehearsals set up because we had an understudy performance anyway. So they're like, oh, we're gonna get you where you need to be, and get you all performance ready. And I think our understudy performance was like 2 weeks after opening. And I think we had like 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 rehearsals in between then, to like get us up to speed. So it wasn't like you got tech, have fun,
Right.
Which is definitely a thing that I've experienced before. I did She Loves Me with Blank Theater, and they called me in. I booked it late. Like I'm a company member with them, so I know them well. But they were like, hey, we need you to cover the Sheepos, later in the rehearsal process. And I was like, great, got it. I know this role. Let's do it. And then I went up on the designer run. Book in hand. Because the actor I was covering had something come up, and they were like, Larry, we know we hired you 3 days ago. Can you do this? And I was like, yeah, if I have a book, because I need to know where I'm going, but sure. So went up book in hand in designer run, and then I ended up going on for that show 4 times, when we actually like opened. Enough times, that I'm actually on the Heath website. As one of their favorite understudies. And it's one of my favorite theater stories. I love Chicago theater because we're so cool. I went to see a show at Theo Ubukwe the night before, randomly because a friend had a comp, and got sat next to the Heaths. Chatted with them while we're watching the show. I think it's the one with the girl who sings Shy. Princess and the Pea, I think. Or the mattress. That one.
What's called mattress? Yeah.
That one. And was talking with the Heats, having a great time. I'm at the next day, me and my friend are on the way to the movie theaters to watch something. And I'm checking out, and I go, it would be hilarious if on the way to the movie theaters, the stage manager called. So the stage manager calls.
Right.
And I'm like, hi, I'm checking out, so you're going to have to talk to my friend. So I give my friend the phone. I'm like, find out what's going on. And he goes, hey, you're going on. And I was like, great, cool. Thank you for this. I'm still going to see this movie. We got an early enough ticket. So I need to be able to show when? Great. Got you. So went, saw one of the Marvel movies. Don't remember which one. And went and did the show.
That's awesome.
Because that's the life of an understudy, and it's great.
Yeah.
Were there any times when you didn't feel prepared to go on stage?
The only time I've ever felt underprepared to go on stage as an understudy is when I did Tick, Tick, Boom. And I am forever grateful to Harper Caruso for this one. We were at one of the understudy rehearsals. I think it was the first understudy rehearsal. And I we did it, ran all the things. And at the end of it, Harper was like, Larry, you're not ready. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but like, you're not ready. And Harper was the music director. And I was like, Harper, thank you. Like, I like took it. I was like, thank you for the note. Understood. Left. And other people on who like had heard that happen were like, and like Harper had other words and they were kind and like had other notes and stuff. But like that's one of the things that stuck out to me. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And other people were like, that was a little harsh. And I was like, no, that's the truth. I'm not ready. If I had to go on right now, like there's not going to be a show. So yeah, I need to get in gear and like figure out why I'm not ready for this. And turned it around. The next understudy rehearsal, walked in there and like knocked out the park. But like definitely went into that first one and I don't know why. Was just like not fully prepared for it. And like they had given us all the things we needed, like well, because this was Tick Tick Boom with Boho. And they had given us all the time we needed. Like when we were in music rehearsals, they would have the main cast sing it, then do the understudies and bounce back and forth. And they'd give us all of that. So I don't know. My brain just wasn't in it that day, I guess. I don't know. But definitely got the kick that I needed to like get it in gear and knock it out when we got there.
So here's my curiosity. So you've understudied. Do you know how many times you've understudied so far?
Not looking at my resume right now, I think I've understudied at least 8 times in Chicago.
Okay. And so have you done multiple tracks in one show?
Swung once. And that was on Three Penny Opera at Theo Ubique. I swung the 2 male ensemble tracks. That's the only real time I've done 2 different tracks in a show. Any other time? Oh wait, no. One of the times that I understudied, they called me in the week of the show. I understudied the 2 male leads, in that show. And so that was fun. Never went on for them, but like I learned those tracks very well, very fast.
Yeah.
But those 2 male leads in that show. But yeah, otherwise those are the only times I've swung.
How does that like change your preparation?
Approach. Yeah.
It changes it in the way I use technology for it. So like I love my iPad. It is my favorite thing. My iPad and Fourscore is so much fun. Because in a musical you can connect the score and the libretto and bounce back and forth, but in a play it's really great because I can just highlight different sections in different colors and have it like pull out different things that I need, and use different fonts for different characters and like set it up in such a way that it just makes it so easy to read for like this character is all on the left, this one's all on the right, and how that all maps out a lot easier that way.
Okay.
Like I just use the margins separately for the different characters if I'm swinging something.
Mm-hmm.
But I've only ever had to do it with 2. I've never had to go past 2 characters, and so we'll see how the methods evolve if I do.
What do you find different about when you're understudying a straight play versus a musical? Is there, I mean, obviously the music, but
the music.
Just in terms of how you operate in those different spaces, do they have different requirements, do you feel?
I think the requirements are pretty similar. I mean, the requirements for the musical are slightly higher, but like that's only because you have a little bit more to memorize as far as like being able to sing this specific melody with these words and this choreography. Where like you don't have that much in a play, but like it's still just as important to like lock down all of the things in the play as far as the beats between everything and like how you're gonna put this all together, right? Because like as an understudy, we're not running it all of the time. We might get a put in the day of or like the day before, depending on the company you're with, but it's gonna be like just your scenes, and they're not gonna really work on your traffic pattern behind the stage, right? So regardless of what it is that I'm working on, my biggest thing that I want to focus, that I ask of my overstudy is just, hey, what's the traffic pattern behind the scenes? Because I can see everything you're doing on stage. I have that really easy. But what's it like backstage? And that for me has just been a little bit easier in plays versus musicals.
Yeah.
Just because the plays I've understudied for haven't had as many moving parts. So that's been a little bit easier.
Something the house used to do, which I really, really loved, is after open, we would sit, and the stage manager would have us go through what happens backstage. And so like for our understudies. And so we like they would create like the a prompt script that included this, and then the actors who were understudying us would also shadow us. So they would get this like information, because house shows were always like, what do they call them, feats of great feats of storytelling, something like that, right? So there was always a lot going on and off stage, and we would take the time to map that out for the understudies and then walk them through that. And my first time working with the house was, I had only been in Chicago for a few years, so I didn't know that wasn't like a norm, because I thought it was so useful, so valuable, so smart. But so it was a great thing.
Yeah. That's cool. I love that. That makes things so much easier, because honestly, I just wish there were norms about Chicago understudy processes, because honestly, pick a company, it's gonna be different.
Yeah, I'm liking that there at least more are having understudies. Like that's the first step, right? That's becoming the norm. And so hopefully we'll get a norm in processes. Well, something I wonder, and as I've never just thought about it, so we understudy, and our job is to be as close to the overstudies work as possible for the sake of our castmates and such. As musical artists, vocalists or musicians or whatever, is there sort of more kind of freedom of your own, like the art that you bring into that? Because that feels like it could be more fluid than a straight play.
Yeah, so depending on the show you're working on and the team you're working with, at least for me, when I understudy, every time I go into something, and this is something I got from Patti LuPone, reading her autobiography, when she was talking about doing Evita in Australia, she was like, did they buy my performance, or did they buy me playing this role? Meaning, when I performed it, I stepped on my right foot. You have all the choreography on the left foot right now, but you bought my performance, so I'm going to step on the right. So I go into there and I'm asking, hey, do you want me to give you their performance, or do you want me to give you as close to that as possible? Or just am I matching blocking, choreography, and telling the same story, but in my way? And depending on who you're working with, you get different answers. When I did Hedwig, it was very much, yeah, you're the understudy for Hedwig, but also I am a black non-binary human being. Tyler is not a black human being. Tyler is a white passing person. So that's gonna influence the story completely differently, right? And so with that process, we had different hair hair and slightly adjusted makeup, because it's gonna be two different Hedwigs. There's no way around that. So you have to give some space for us to do two different things. But when I've done other shows, I've gone in and been like, hey, how much freedom are we doing here? No, you're singing the riff that they sang there. You're doing the turn that they do there. And that's how this is working. So it does really depend on the company you're with and who your music director is, on how much freedom they're going to give you in the vocal on that show. I haven't found many people to be too restrictive, just because everybody's performances are going to be different, and everybody's voice, that's my favorite thing about musical theater, is we can all sing the same song. It's all going to sound different every time any one of us sings it, right? We're all going to find something new every time we do it. That's why I do theater, and why I go see 7 productions of the same show, because all of you did it different, and there's something super cool about all of them. And so, yeah, I prefer to jump into it and go into it more as thank you so much for this skeleton that you have built of this show and character. I'm going to add my own muscles around it that fit the same show that we're doing, And I haven't gotten too much issue with that with anybody. One time I did an extra riff somewhere, and the music director was like, "Don't do that, because that is not the style of this show." And I was like, "Great, stylistically, not the show. Understood." Because it was some like ridiculous R&B riff, and it was like a golden age musical.
It just struck you in that moment.
It struck me in that moment, and he was like, "It was cool. Music, the notes, the scale, all the things you did, so cool. But stylistically, not the show." And I was like, "Yeah, sorry, bud. I'll fix that."
Yeah, it's really tough when you don't have that feedback through the process, and then you're kind of in the thing, and then to get that feedback is great. It's necessary. But you don't really know until you do it, right?
Exactly. And I also love a ask for forgiveness, not permission sometimes. Not all the time. There are very specific times you can ask for forgiveness and not permission, but if you can get away with it, try it, right? This isn't Wicked. I'm not sitting there like, we're gonna dock you or like you're in trouble. These are the approved riffs. It's non-equity Chicago theater. Have some fun, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, when you were talking about songs and having different riffs, I was thinking about how even with comedy and telling a joke, like people's rhythms are just wildly different. So it's like, I don't know how realistic it is to expect an understudy to give the same line reading as the
Oh yeah.
overstudy.
I would jump back to Hedwig because I love working with Tyler. Tyler is brilliant, and anybody who ever understudies Tyler is, oh my god, they're so brilliant. But anyway, working on that show, Tyler like wrote some jokes in this show, or like just delivered some things in ways that like, those are not my style of comedy, right? I can give them comedy, I can make them laugh, but I'm gonna do it differently. And so it's really cool. There was like a couple people who saw my understudy performance who went and saw the other one, Tyler, do it as well, and we're like, "Oh, it was cool." Like the differences in the way you guys delivered jokes, and also the jokes you did tell were different and were fun. Like I told a joke about they made a joke about Adele Dazeem at one point, and I think I made it about Patti LuPone and her diction or something. And it was just different jokes because we were two different people. And it worked out and it was fun. And that's like, again, that's the joy, and the thing that I think is so cool about understudying is when an understudy jumps into the show, it like changes things and it like energizes everyone. Everyone is so excited for the understudy to be in the show and like to be performing that day. Cause like, great, you are performing. And also it's going to be slightly different because there's a new actor on stage that we haven't done this with. So we're just going to have some fun and make the show, happen. And that's really cool and really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one actually where I did see, both you and Tyler in it. And, it was, I mean, Hedwig is a play that I could watch 100 people do, and I would love it every time. But it was really interesting to see just the minor differences of being in the same production but with different actors.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. And like depending on the show that you're in, like you can also sing the songs in different keys, which is also really cool. You just
Did
have
you
to
do
like
that for Hedwig?
The last song in Hedwig we sang in two different keys.
Oh, okay.
And then we did that for that show. But again, like it depends on the show you're working on and the crew you're working with, right? Like Harper and the band that we had for Hedwig were they're so cool. Love every one of those people. But like when that was brought up of like, I can sing it in either one of them, which one do you want? They're like, do this one. And I was like, great, I'll do that one instead. And it was really cool and really fun experience to work with Harper in that way on this show. to really craft a slight variance on the show on like what the vocal for Hedwig sounded like. Hedwig was also a really great experience for me because I come from a like opera singing world, right? Like I started off singing opera and then found my way into musical theater through Rocky Horror as my first like big musical from doing only operas. So that's very different styles of music and like singing and production of voice and stuff. So getting to work on something like Hedwig, which is very different from what I started with and what my base of voice is, and having those conversations of like, hey, I think that this sounds a little too pretty and not enough like Hedwig. How do we adjust that? What do we do here? And like working on that and figuring that out together was so amazing. And like, it was a really fun time.
Have you had, I mean, your experiences sound overall very positive. Um, were there any instances where you felt like outside of the cat, like, you know, sometimes like a process, depending on the director and such, it can be really inclusive of the understudies, and sometimes it feels like we are definitely second tier, you know.
And like that's definitely happened, and you can. The thing that I tell anybody who asks me about understudying before a process, if that's a possibility, is if there are understudy rehearsals already scheduled, they're considering the understudies and they're being they are at the very least taking your time into consideration, which means they're going to try to include you as much as possible, most likely. Not always, but they're going to. That's a great green flag to look for. Yeah. Now, everybody listening to this, don't just throw understudy rehearsals on there and not have anything planned for those rehearsals. Because if you have a bunch of actors and show up and they're like, we're ready for rehearsal, and you go, okay, what would you like to rehearse? That's not going to be a very productive rehearsal. Please have some plans. But if you go into a process and like they're bringing you on late, or they haven't, when you ask about any rehearsals or anything like that, they're not really forthcoming with answers, or they're like, oh, we'll get back to you, or something like that. Those are some definite red flags of like, this isn't going to be the best time as an understudy. And like, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had all beautiful sunshine and rainbows with understudying, but I at least for myself very much advocate for myself and really push everyone else to like make sure we're asking for what we need, because we don't really get taught that in school to make sure we're getting what we need. So like I am always making sure that I as an understudy and the rest of the understudy team are getting what we need, even when it's a team that's like not really considering what we're gonna be doing or something, or like have any plans or anything. I'm like, okay, cool. Hi, director. Hi, music director. Hi, other person on production team. When are understudy rehearsals? What is the plan for them? Is there some kind of plan for them? Because this has been my experience when there isn't a plan. So I would love if we could avoid that. And like most people are super receptive to that. Of like, oh yeah, you're being proactive and trying to like make sure we have understudies that are prepared to go into the show should something happen. Okay, actually, yes, let's try to work at that and figure that out. But then there have been some times when people were not receptive, and it ended up being a massive headache for everyone involved on the project to make sure that the understudies are being taken care of properly, to the point of like things were just so overstretched and so unfocused that every department was suffering from the lack of focus on things. And it wasn't just the understudies that were suffering. It was everything. And like you do in theater as a cast of actors and professionals and performers that are excited to put this story on, you rally, you get it up, and it's amazing. And everybody comes to see it, and it's fantastic. But yeah, people need to learn to take everyone's time into consideration and like really understand that understudies aren't there like to just we're not going to learn by osmosis, right? We're not going to or diffusion, sorry, osmosis is only water. But like,
you can
we're
use
not gonna
osmosis metaphorically. I'm okay with that.
But we're not gonna learn by just standing in the room with you giving us no resources and no time, right? Like, in something like, yeah, I'm gonna use a random example of like, I don't know, some musicals that have like heels or something, or like turning tables or moving parts, or like there's fight choreography. What do you mean you're not gonna have the fight choreographer run this with the understudies, but you're only gonna have the fight captain run it with the understudies?
Yeah.
No, you have to run it with, like, the fight choreographer should run that with the understudies at the very minimum. Like, that's just how that goes, or how it should go, and how it goes at like companies that are showing that they care, and want the product to be good, and want the understudies to be there, right? Like we mentioned before, a lot of companies come at understudies as like, oh, I guess we need an understudy in case somebody gets sick. We'll hire somebody. No, like, we are just as important to the production success as everyone else is.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, pretty simple. What are you gonna do if you're, hi, we bought these $100 tickets to see Wicked, but Elphaba is sick today and we don't have an understudy. What do you mean there's no understudy?
Yeah.
Oh, Elba's sick, but we just hired her understudy yesterday. What do you mean you just hired her understudy yesterday?
Yeah. I mean, especially like if any theater company is asking for prices, or is like setting ticket prices at like $30-$40,
right?
Like,
I didn't even care.
Have a plan for that.
Have a plan for that. Like, have something in place. Because it's just, as actors, we know, and like, there's just, we feel the performance is going to be different when you're not supported as an understudy. And like, there's just a nervousness that exudes from your body, like our bodies, that like isn't going to be as easy to damp away when we're not prepared as understudies, because there's always that stress of like, oh, you could get called at any time to go up here and do this, and you have to be prepared to do it at any time. But also, you have physically never done this thing, and you're expected to get up there and do it perfectly the first time you do it. And in any other thing that we ever talk to people about, like, no, you don't have to be perfect the first time you do it. What do you mean? It's crazy to think that you're going to be perfect the first time you do it.
Right.
But when it comes to understudying, you usually have to be perfect the first time you do it. Because that's also probably usually the only time you're going to do it.
Yeah. One last question before we'll go to break. I was just curious, like, when you're in a show, it sounds like you're pretty proactive about saying what you need and all of that. If you're not getting that support, how do you like motivate yourself and like push through that process if you're like all alone kind of on it?
Honestly, my biggest thing since forever, honestly, has been, I really do, like, as far as like memorizing things and getting all that stuff down, that comes to me super easily. So that's super quick, super fun, and like not super fun, but like super easy for me. Of like, here's a script, memorize it. You got 4 days. Great, I can memorize that. Now where do I need to move? And that gets a little bit more dicey. And what ends up happening in situations where I haven't felt super supported in that, I will straight up talk to the other cast members and be like, hi, I'm going on. So for all of our safeties, what is the like, can you please guide me if I'm not in the right spot? Because we all know how much prep I got for this. I'm doing my best. I've written down all of the things. I've memorized all of the lines. I've memorized all the things I can see on stage. I have done all of those things. But like, sometimes you get on stage and lights hit your face and your brain forgets everything you've ever learned. And you're like, do I know how to breathe? And you need some help in those times. And like, there's been once or twice where I've gone up as an understudy and lost something. But like, it's something that's not super noticed, and also like somebody else in the cast can quickly is quick enough to cover it, you know? Because we all know that is what is happening, that the understudy wasn't prepared for this role the way they should have been by the company, and so now we're in the situation where they're going to give us the best, and I'm going to do my best job as the understudy for this cast and this show. And the cast is usually rallying behind the understudy of like, we're also going to do our best to make sure that you have success here. Yeah, production team dropped the ball, but we are not that. And that's always been the thing. And the beautiful thing about actors that I love so much is that like we are such a great community when we want to be. And are so great at supporting each other. I just wish it was, the active choice more often.
Yeah. Cool. We'll be right back with Larry Trice. Hey, thank you so much for listening. We want to continue bringing you new stories of understudy triumphs and stumbles. So if you want to support our mission, it would mean a whole lot if you joined our Patreon at patreon.com/understudypod. You're on in 5, The Art of Understudying. We are back with Larry Trice, and now it is time for the breakdown. All right, Larry, and our question for this week is, do you prefer to work on new or devised plays or on already written plays or musicals?
I mean, that is a wonderful question, and I love this. And I have an answer that is going to make people mad. I want to do both of them for different reasons.
Okay.
As an understudy, it's a lot easier to work on work that exists in the canon. I can pull it up. I can grab a script that exists already. I can read all of this before even jumping into it and know generally what I'm going to get into. As an understudy on devised work, everything can change. I've been main cast on devised work and got 6 new pages 3 days before we opened. Yeah, it's cool. I love device work so much. Oh my god, new works are so cool. I love them so much. They're just harder to understudy on. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten 6 new pages day of a new script. So
right. And hi, understudy. These are 6 new pages for a show that the overstudy is never done. So if they get sick, we gotta have fun.
Yeah.
But honestly, both of them for different reasons. Some of the classic or not classic, but just some of the canon that already exists is so cool, and I think there's some really fun new twists that could be thrown on it by just looking at it through a different lens, or letting somebody different direct something for once. I would love to see a Black woman direct Once on This Island, because that's something I've never seen. There have been productions that have done it. I've just never been around to see one of them because it's been far away. But I would love to see the different lens that show takes with a Black woman directing that show with the themes of colorism and everything else that's going on in that show, It changes a little bit, and it adds different tint to stuff. And yeah, there's so much cool things that could be done with that, right? Look at what Little Shop of Horrors is doing off Broadway with their casting, and they're throwing in all these different people to play Audrey and Seymour. And I think Audrey has been Asian and Black and trans at this point on the off-Broadway production. So there's so many cool things we can do with the canon that already exist, that we should continue to do and play with. But also, I don't need to see 17 productions of the same show. I don't need to see all of the major houses in a region doing the same show back to back to back again. Because we all know the same people are going to see that same show depending at every one of your theaters. So like, have some fun and do something that the other guy isn't doing, by doing some devised work and doing some new works, and bringing in new voices to the musical theater and like just theater canon in general, to let more stories be told. Because that's why I do this at the very least, is there's so many cool stories that like need to be told and people deserve to hear. But we only let the same handful of people tell the stories, or write the stories. And we need to adjust that and let some new works and fun things happen.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Scott, do you have a preference?
Yeah. It's interesting you said both, because I think I have the same opinion, because and really going from one to the other is really fun. So like I did cabaret and birthday candles, in between like doing handbag shows, where everything's
written for the show.
Exactly, yeah. And also with those new works, there's a little bit more leeway. Not a whole lot, depending on who the writer is. But at least, with a new play, it's like, okay, well, we're figuring this out. We're figuring out what the funniest thing is, what the thing that works best for the story is. And that freedom is really nice, especially since like I started doing improv like, I don't know, 10 years or so ago. And mostly just to kind of allow myself to be a little bit more open and free on stage. And there's moments for ad-libbing in a play that's published, or like if something happens on stage, you have to address it. And I think it's just important that it be like alive in that way. Either whether it's a new work or a classic play.
There is a delight in originating a character. I can say that. I love that aspect of new work. And I think I certainly enjoy both, but there is, the team matters, right? When you're devising, it's important across the board. But the nature of devising, I have a need for like a genuine sense of like community and collaboration, whereas in straight plays or just plays already written, I didn't mean to say straight plays, but that's always lovely to have, but I can do my work with or without that. And I can do the devising new work without it, but I'm just not going to enjoy it as much. It's not going to feel as good, and things won't necessarily click as organically as when I have had the experience of having, and not necessarily, like some deep friendship, but this kind of just collective sense of liberation and respect and interest in the whatever the topic of the piece will be, or if there's a narrative or not. Sometimes there's like vignettes or whatever, but that we all kind of have a similar energy towards that work. And so I give voice to that because I have experience devising with less than that, and it just doesn't feel as rewarding. It gives cause for me even like second guessing myself or having this doubt that isn't natural to me. Like I come into a space where this is who I am, and I'm unapologetic for that. but in creating a new work that's going to be produced, like we're producing this, right? Because there's sometimes people are working on new plays and there's this workshop aspect. You're not necessarily going to be cast. Like that's a different thing, and I do enjoy that. But working towards production, and I think it's probably the fault of the really great experiences, right? Like that even open my eyes to that, because at first you just go in like, all right, we're gonna do like whatever it takes to do this, but I guess the more times you do it, your experiences shape how you choose to do it next. If you have a choice, right? Because sometimes you don't know who's going to be in the room and you're brought on for new work. So that all of those things are more heightened for me than they are in already written plays. And I think part of it is because, one, I have the script, right? Like I know what I'm working with in that way. And so then if that energy I'm talking about is not as present, I still have that work to do, and I can focus on that. And however we come together, it comes together. And it's just like, it's almost like it works different muscles, right? And so some of those muscles for me are strong on the already written stuff, or I have to kind of find how to build them for the new stuff.
Yeah. I love that idea of the collaboration and the moment where you're all just kind of like understanding that like like we're working on the same thing, we're all in the same mindset. Like I think with comedies it happens a lot, like when like somebody does something really funny and everybody's laughing at the same time, and it's just like, oh my god, we are all here and we struck gold. With musicals, I feel like it's when you like hit that perfect like harmony, or like
the flawless harmony with the whole group for the first time.
Yeah,
just like sets the room right.
Exactly.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. And like and I haven't had this happen very often, but I mentioned Birthday Candles a little while ago, and that's a very emotional play. And it was the kind of thing that after the first table read, like pretty much everybody was just bawling together. But it was really powerful because like we all feel this in a very deep way. And I think that's like why we do this.
Yeah.
It's time for props.
Ooh, props.
All right, Larry. For the props segment of our time together, you have the floor to give shout outs to any understudies, if any come to mind, and then anybody in the arts who has had a positive impact, whose work you like, whatever you want to talk about.
I feel a little bit bad right now because I don't remember this actor's name. But the actor who is playing Elsa in Frozen at Paramount right now, made a post recently on Instagram shouting out understudies because she was feeling sick. And she was like, I have been the understudy who has been like prepared and ready to go on and had the overstudy be sick and like push through, and like understudies are here for us to like support and make things work. And I really love that somebody in her position, like she is playing Ilsa in Frozen at one of the major equity houses in the Chicagoland region, to make a big post like that to shout out understudies, to be like, go do this and like go see her and support this understudy who's going on as Ilsa, and trust the understudies, use them when you have them, like let them do their jobs. I just think that that's amazing and that's super cool.
Emily Kristen Morris.
Yeah, her. She's cool. And I think that that was awesome. Thank you, Emily Kristen Morris, for making that post, because I think it's something that I think would be really great if more actors were doing that are leading big shows like this, to just let everybody know that like understudies are amazing. We're so cool. Everybody who does understudying and like does stuff like this, like It's so cool, and I love it. And like that was amazing, and I love her for that. Some other cool peeps I want to shout out. Leah Geis, who was the stage manager for Tick Tick Boom. Honestly, one of the coolest stage managers I've ever worked with. I work with Leah Geis every time, y'all. If you need a stage manager, call Leah right now. Do it right now. You actually you did it too late. Somebody else already hired you. But like they're so cool. And I love them. Leo, who was the assistant director on Hedwig, thank you. You know all of the things that we talked about and how we put the show and what we went through to make the understudy process happen. And thank you so much for all of that. Love that. Everybody at, I'm going to use the government name and say GF Productions, because the F is not something that you can put on airwaves. The FTC gets mad.
We can put whatever on airwaves here.
Great, cool. That's Genderfucked Productions, y'all. And I'm the associate artistic director, but we are a trans run and led like theater company, arts organization, production troupe, whatever you want to call us. But we do art work to support the trans community in the theater of Chicago, in dance and in puppetry right now we had, and in musical theater and all over the place. And like, it's really something that has spread and is showing up, and I'm seeing some of it work out, right? Like some of the performers that have been in the Trans Voices Cabaret, which is produced by them, or Genderfucked, have gone on, are Jeff Award winners, multiple Jeff nominees have come out of doing Trans Voices Cabarets. People have gotten agents and stuff like out of it. So it's such a great thing that is happening in the city of Chicago that I think everybody should look into. And also like, that's Genderfucked is for Chicago, but Trans Voices Cabaret has chapters in New York, in London, in California, in Seattle, I think, so like the art is there and people are making it and presenting you trans actors you can cast in anything. So hire us because we're here and we're freaking amazing. And those are people that I really want to shout out right now. Those are your props, everyone.
Yay.
They are your props. You can't touch them.
Thank you. Scott, you got any of this up?
Yeah, well, I'm understudying Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer right now at Hell in a Handbag. And we just opened, and I'm sure I already shouted them out on a previous episode, but Al Duffy is understudying a few roles in that play, and I saw them go on during rehearsal a few times, and they knew everything they were doing every single time, eager to jump in for anything. I'm just like, that's not who I am. And it amazes me. And really, all of the understudies for that show are really fantastic. And I'll double shout out Leo as well, because they were assistant director on I Promised Myself to Live Faster. And they were wonderful, especially working as an understudy on that show. Mm-hmm. They were very supportive and awesome. Mm-hmm. They knew what they were doing. So
Leo's fantastic. I love them.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I got nothing.
Okay. So Larry, we like to finish up with the question of what is something that either you would tell yourself when you were starting out in Chicago, or something that piece of advice that you would give somebody starting out now here, or in acting in general.
Advice for starting out in acting or in general and anything. Be yourself, honestly. Like, I don't care if you walk into my room and you're trying to give me Idina Menzel and not yourself. I know, and you're not Idina Menzel. If I needed Idina Menzel, I would call her. I want you, which is why you're in the room. So give me what you have. Because it wasn't until I started embracing who I am as myself, that I started booking more. It wasn't until I stopped trying to be what my school told me to do and what like the theater professors want you to do. Like, take the things that you learn in school with a little grain of salt, y'all. Because once you're out here, everything is different. But also respond to your emails every time. Every time. If you get a deadline on an email, you respond before the deadline. That's very important.
Good advice right there.
Please check your emails. Because I am an actor and I'm a producer as well. And I know that I don't respond to all my emails as quickly as I need to. And it is frustrating for producers. So please respond to your emails. Yeah. That's important.
Yeah. It was you could hear like the exact moment you went from actor to producer in that sentence. It was hilarious.
Oh, absolutely. I get it. I am an actor. I started off acting and doing all the acting and everything first, and then learned to produce later. And coming into producing, looking at myself as an actor, I was like, how did you book anything? Babe. Email etiquette. Honestly, email etiquette is very important, and I don't think anyone understands it as well as we all should. I don't even do it as well as I should. Not even gonna pretend I'm perfect. But at the very least, if somebody sends you an email that says, "Hi, I would like to give you this job. Are you interested?" You better respond to that email. If it's a yes or no, just give them an answer.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
As a person who has as much gray hair as you can see on this Zoom from people not responding.
Mine is hidden by this fancy filter that I have on here. There's a bunch of gray up there, baby.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Larry.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Oh my God.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation today with Larry Trice II and that it gives deeper insight into the art of understudying.
You can send us a question or give us a suggestion of somebody we should interview at understudypodcast@gmail.com.
Or hit us up at understudypod on Facebook and Instagram.
We want to thank all of our Patreon subscribers, especially Marcella Huff and Stanley Sava.
If you want to support the show, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/understudypod.
Our theme song and all other music are by Laura McKenzie.
Our episodes are edited by Scott and produced by Scott and me a little bit.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, please hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice and tell your friends.
If you hated it, tell your enemies.
And their parents.
Their stupid, drunken parents.
Bye. Bye.